Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another academic success webinar. Today, we will be talking about research and library resources. Again, I'm Ashley Bray. I'm the Disability and Learning Skills Advisor for the School of Continuing Studies, and I have with me my colleague, Amy Blat, who's our Learning Skills Specialist for students on main campus. Make sure you're following us on social media. You can find all of our handles for Facebook and Instagram here. You can also check out our other webinars that we've done in the past on our website, academicsupport.georgetown.edu. So today we're really lucky to have Megan Hunt, who's the librarian for the School of Continuing Studies. And she's going to be teaching us a little bit about some of the resources the library has to offer. I think she's going to walk us through the library website and touch a little bit on research kind of tips and strategies. So Megan, I will hand it over to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. So what I'm going to go over today is kind of the steps to great research and kind of how to use the library website in order to get the best resources possible for your papers. These are the steps I'm going to be going through today. Choose your topic, brainstorming sources, searching for information, evaluating your sources, integrating new knowledge, and I'm going to touch a little bit at the end on citing your sources. So let's go ahead and get started. The first step is to choose your topic. And it's always important to choose a topic that you're interested in, keeping in mind that your professor hasn't assigned you a topic already. So if it's kind of an open-ended choice of what you're going to be writing on or researching, the more interested you are in the subject matter, the easier it's going to be to write the paper and to do research, and it's going to be something that you're excited about. You also want to think about how broad or narrow that your topic is. The broader that your topic is, you're going to have a lot of information, you're going to have to sift through it, and it may not give the depth that you're able to give. If your topic is too narrow, you're not going to find any information on your topic. So it's very important that you've kind of chosen a topic that fits the criteria for your assignment, and that also isn't too broad, isn't too narrow. What can really help with this, because that's kind of a lot to ask from someone who's just like sitting down to do the research, is by starting the research process, you can actually start narrowing or broadening your topic. And I'll kind of go through that when we go through the library resources a little bit later on. The other thing you want to do is think about, the classic questions: who, what, when, where, and why. So who is affected? Who are the information providers? Who might have the information you need to get more research on your topic? What are the major questions? Is there some sort of debate? Is there a difference of viewpoints? Is there a range of different issues under your topic? The when, is it a current event? Is it historical? Is it something that you can look at how it has changed over different time periods? Where, is it local, national, international? Is there a specific location that this issue is occurring in or this topic is occurring in? And why? Why is kind of, why did you choose this? What interests you about it? Why this particular issue or topic? So those are the kind of questions you want to start thinking about as you begin to do your research. So then you want to brainstorm your sources. So I've just put up here a brief thing to kind of talk about the different types of sources, what they're used for, the different examples of them. What I'm going to be going over today is mostly academic journals and books. You will see a little bit of newspaper and magazine results. So the resources that I'm going to go over, you'll actually get quite a variety of these different types of sources. So when you get to researching, this section is going to cover searching for information, evaluating sources, and integrating new knowledge. And what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to move us over to the library website and start showing you how to do the searches within the library resources and kind of get you familiar with the library website in general. So let's switch over to the library. So there's a lot of information that kind of hits you first off if you've never used the library website before. There's a couple key things I want to point out. This tabbed search area in the middle, it always defaults to one search. This is kind of the Google search for library resources. As you can see, it searches articles, books, journals, electronic sources. It searches kind of everything. So it's kind of the one-stop shop. If you aren't sure where to start, this could be one place to search. The catalog searches the library catalog, which does books, journals, and media. This gives you slightly more narrow results than the one search will. So if you have a specific book that you're looking for, this is actually where you want to come. Articles, if your teacher has assigned a specific citation for you, you can try looking it up here via the article title. You can also look it up via the journal title. The other important tab on here is databases. So if you already know the specific library database that you want to be searching in, you can look for it directly by title. The last tab is the library website. This just searches everything on the library. You probably won't use this one very much. The one thing that I always want to point out to students that's most helpful is if you come up to research, we have these research and course guides. What's nice about these is as you've kind of started thinking about your topic, you can see what area it falls in, and the library has actually narrowed down all of the resources that we have on particular topics. Now, for students on the main campus, we have them, kind of by topic. So we have American history, we have film and media studies, we have biochemistry. For students at the School of Continuing Studies, we actually have them by program. So if you're in public relations and corporate communications, if you're in integrated marketing, if you're in global hospitality, we have resources specifically for your program. And the reason why the research guides are nice is the library has over 800 databases. And a lot of them you may not need to use for your research. So you can come in and say, for instance, you're doing a project on American history. You can see exactly what, scholarly books and articles, primary sources, background information. The other really nice thing about this is you can also see the subject librarians. So I'm the librarian for the School of Continuing Studies, but each of the different areas of research on the main campus each have a different librarian. And so on the research guide, you can actually see who the librarian is and email them, because the librarians are very happy to work with you on kind of developing your topic, finding research for your papers. We're happy to help. So let's go back to the main library page. And let's start with books. So a lot of research, sometimes you can find information within books. So let's try a sample search for the Civil War. So that's what I've decided to write my paper on. And one of the first things that you'll notice is it's giving me things about Russia. It's giving me, U.S. diplomacy, Civil War to World War I, which isn't necessarily on the Civil War. The way the library works behind the scenes a little bit is that it's just looking at the words I type in. And so because I'm not saying specifically the U.S. Civil War, it's going to look at all civil wars that come up within our database. So keep that in mind when you're doing any sort of research, that it's just looking at the words and it doesn't necessarily know that I mean specifically the U.S. Civil War, unless I come in here and I actually tell it U.S. Civil War. And now we get some information that's a little bit more on my topic. One of the first things that you can also notice is the location of different items. Now, this book is located in the Cutter Stacks, which is in the Middle East. This is one resource that people on the main campus unfortunately cannot get. You would want a book like this where it says the location is Lao Stacks. That's short for Lowinger, which is the main library on campus. You can request this book to either be held or you can have it sent to one of the other libraries. So if you are a School of Continuing Studies student, you can actually request that the book gets sent over to you. You can also see that we have some that are ebooks. So if the little icon mentions that this is an ebook, when you go into the book, you can connect to the online resource and it'll take you to the book available electronically. One of the other things that Georgetown Library does that's really interesting is we're part of a consortium of other libraries in the area. So there are 9 schools, and we actually share all of our print material. You can actually go to any of the schools and pick up books, or you can have physical books sent. Unfortunately, electronic books are not shareable, but say you needed a physical copy of this Grand Design Strategy in the US Civil War. We can actually search the WLC consortium to see if any of the other local schools have access to this. So it looks like US Civil War Out West, which is not actually our book. I will say it sometimes has issues. Let's grab the actual title. And we'll come back over and we'll try searching it again. Okay, and now we can see here are all the schools that have it. So some of these are electronic resources, which unfortunately we can't access, but we can see here that this is George Washington University has a physical book. Catholic University also has a physical book, as does George Mason and Marymount University. So you could come into any of these and request it to be sent to Georgetown to pick up. So that is a great resource that I highly encourage all students to take advantage of. Let's go back to the main library page. And let's look at finding articles. So books are very helpful, especially if it's kind of a more historical topic, something that, you know, there's been a lot written on, and books are great because they're very in-depth. A lot of what you'll also be looking for when you're doing library research are articles. You can search if you know the exact title of the database you want, but when you're first getting started, maybe you don't know where to go. If we come back over to the research and course guide, say you haven't found something that's really helpful, something that doesn't seem like it's quite on your topic, we have some of the popular databases listed here as well. My 2 favorites are Academic Search Premier and ProQuest Central. JSTOR is also another very good resource, especially if you're in the more humanities area. Today I'm just going to go over these first 2, but keep in mind that all the databases work on the same principles, so you're going to be able to use the same things I'm doing in these 2 databases in JSTOR. So let's go here. Now if you're off campus, this is how you log in. And you just log in with your NetID and password. And so now we're in the database. So let's take a look at our topic of the US Civil War. And you notice as I type that it actually gives me options. This is the database trying to guess what research I'm trying to do, kind of like how Google tries to guess what you're typing in. So I'm going to go and click on the US Civil War. The other reason I really like those drop-down boxes is because sometimes the hardest part of doing research is figuring out what words to use. And the drop-down menus sometimes give you ideas of other search terms to use, or other areas of research that you might want to look into. So here are our results. You can see we have 315. A couple of things to note when you're looking at the results. It tells you what kind of results. So we have academic journal articles, we have some Associated Press videos. Looks like most of these are actually academic journals. If we scroll back up a little bit, we can see that there are also 127 reviews, 58 magazine articles, 41 newspaper articles, and 1 trade publication. So knowing what type of source you want to use is sometimes helpful for narrowing down the results, because 315 is kind of a lot of results to go through. One of the first things that you can do to help narrow your results, and this is something your professors might ask of you, is having peer-reviewed articles only. And what peer-reviewed means is it means that if I'm going to write an article about the US Civil War and submit it to a journal, if it's a peer-reviewed journal, they're going to take my article I've written and give it to someone who's an expert in the field, who's going to read through my article, and they're going to make sure that my writing is done correctly, that, you know, if I did a study of some sort, that I have an accurate methodology before it ever gets published. So it means that it's been reviewed by peers within the field. This is kind of your highest quality research that you can get. And occasionally your professors will say that you have to have 12 peer-reviewed sources. If that's in your assignment, just check this little box and the database will automatically update, and now we're down to just 156 that are peer-reviewed articles on our topic. So that's one good way to kind of evaluate sources. There's kind of a hierarchy that, you know, peer-reviewed journal articles tend to be the highest quality source. Then you kind of get into the non-peer-reviewed academic journal articles. Then you kind of go down into the newspaper, magazine, you know, those kinds of sources, more popular sources. They're still fine to use, unless of course your professor has said you can't. But you want to make sure you have a good mix of sources. So having only magazine articles and newspaper articles without any peer-reviewed academic journal articles, you know, that's not necessarily a good balance to have. So as we look through the results, you can see that we have the full text of these articles. So if we go into one of them, you'll see that the full text is over here. They also have these subject terms. And again, like I said, you know, trying to figure out what words to use, sometimes these subject terms will actually give you exact terms that the database likes to use, that they prefer for you to use. So this one's looking at Civil War, not necessarily the US Civil War, but it's also looking at international law, humanitarian assistance. So maybe I'm wanting to kind of expand my topic to look at the humanitarian side of civil wars in general, not necessarily just the US Civil War. If we go back to our results page, another thing you might come across is something like this article, where you can see that we don't have the PDF full text of the article. Instead, you see this Find Full Text at Georgetown. What this means is this particular database, Academic Search Premier, doesn't have the article. But if we click on it, the library is going to try to find the article for us. This particular article we don't have, it says no electronic text was found, but you can click this Get Article through Interlibrary Loan button, and the library will find the article for you in about 1 to 2 business days. So let's look really quickly at the other database that I kind of like, which is ProQuest Research or ProQuest Central. And this works on the same principles, so we can look at the US Civil War. And then again, you can see the different source types. You'll also notice we got a lot more results in this database. That's kind of the difference between the two databases. Academic Search Premier is a little bit more narrow in focus. ProQuest Central kind of casts a little wider of a net, and you're going to get more newspapers, more magazine. I've even seen blogs actually show up in the results here. Again, we can narrow it just to peer review. We can also go in, you can see the full text and the full text PDF. And then here's that Find Full Text at Georgetown for articles that aren't necessarily in this database. So as you're doing this research, you're going to be kind of skimming articles, reading about them, and what you'll really end up doing is seeing what's out there in the field, what's kind of going on. You're going to become a little mini expert on your topic. And as you read new articles, you're going to integrate that knowledge into what you've already known. You know, maybe you've already read a couple books on the topic, or you've already read, 8 other journal articles. And so you're going to pull all of that information in together. And honestly, you may end up slightly revising your title, your topic. Like I was saying when I was in the other database, maybe I want to look at the humanitarian side of civil wars instead of just the US Civil War. So you may find yourself adjusting, maybe your research terms or your topic overall. That's not a bad thing when doing research. So let's go back to our PowerPoint. So the last section I'm going to talk briefly about is citing sources. So plagiarism is something that Georgetown takes very seriously. And honestly, what I've seen the most is just that it's accidental plagiarism. You do have some people who outright go and copy and paste something. That's very easy for professors to catch, especially if your professors are using something like Turnitin. But what I've seen most that happens is I'm writing my paper, I remember a really good line, I write it in and I forget to cite where I got it from, or I get 2 articles mixed up, and so I give the wrong citation for something that someone else has written. And that's still just as serious as if you had done it intentionally. A couple of the things I like that help with that is RefWorks and Zotero. They are citation management systems. So they're a place that lets you save your articles and save your books, so that way you have them to go back and refer to. They actually let you set up folders, so you can set up a folder for each paper you're writing or each class you're taking. And then that way, you're not getting things mixed up as easily. A couple other resources that you should know about for main campus students, the Writing Center is a great resource for helping kind of with the technicalities. So the research librarians are happy to help you do the research, find the resources that you need. The Writing Center and the Writing Lab, they help you with the technical aspects of it. They can help you with the citation. The Writing Lab is for the School of Continuing Studies students. So please make sure that if you're an SCS student that you're using the Writing Lab. But they do one-on-one peer tutoring sessions, and they are just a great resource for students when writing papers. So do we have any questions?
Megan, we have a couple of questions. Thank you again so much for that. It was so helpful. The first question we have is, how do I make sure that my research question isn't too broad of a topic?
So I know I touched on this a little bit. Making sure your research topic isn't too broad honestly involves going into the library resources and doing a little bit of research, seeing what's out there. When I typed in Civil War, I got way too many results. So even just narrowing it to the US Civil War, or maybe Civil War and humanitarian aid, starts to help narrow your topic.
Great, thanks so much. Another question we have is, what is the best balance between my own ideas and outside sources?
So you definitely need to have your own ideas in the paper. If you're writing your paper and every single sentence is cited as someone else's work, then there's nothing of you in there. If you're doing kind of a traditional research paper, you're going to have a literature review section, and that one will pull a bit more heavily on other people's work, but you should still be the one that's kind of weaving those different sources together. And it's one of those things where when you do more research and you have more sources to pull from, it's actually easier to get your own words and your ideas in there. And it makes the writing a little bit easier, because if you're just saying, well, author A said this and author A also said this, and then author A also said this, the writing gets a little boring. Whereas if you're saying, oh, well, author A said this, but author B doesn't agree with him, and they say this, but I agree with author C, who puts forward this point of view, you can get a little bit more of you into there.
Great, thank you. We had a lot of questions about this. What are some examples that people don't consider when it comes to plagiarism?
So again, like I said, the one I've seen the most is definitely accidental plagiarism, where you've copy and pasted over the quote, you've put it in quotes, and then you've forgotten where it came from. That's for sure the biggest one. Using the wrong source is the other big one. I will say I've never Personally, I actually haven't come across anyone who has directly copy and pasted. The other type of plagiarism that seems a little bit not quite like plagiarism but can fall under the same band is, if you're only citing people, it kind of goes back to that earlier question. If you're only citing other authors and there's nothing of you in the paper, then that kind of leads a little bit more towards plagiarism just because you're not contributing anything within the paper itself. So those, I would say, are probably the most common ones that I've seen come up.
Great, that's great information for everyone to keep in mind as they're working on those research papers. And our last question today is, in terms of writing a research paper, what is the best order to complete the assignment?
So from that earlier graph that I put up, knowing to kind of choose your topic, start thinking about your sources, do the research, see what you find, adjust your topic if you need to, give yourself time to change your topic. If you're writing this, the night before it's due, you may not be finding the sources that you need to support your argument, or you might be finding sources that actually go against what you're trying to put forward in your paper. And if you've waited till the last minute, you're not going to have the time to go back and adjust your topic and kind of get that good research that you need to make it easier to write your paper. And then, of course, making sure that you've accurately cited and, have all of your references.
Great, thank you so much. And Megan, we just wanted to extend our sincere thanks for coming on today. I think everyone learned a lot about the resources we have on campus through the library that we can utilize, especially as we're gearing up for final season. So thank you again for your time and this wonderful information. We so appreciate it.